Hi, my name is Dr. Nitnoi Phaming. I am independent researcher on education for ethnic minorities in Southeast Asia and in Hong Kong. Currently, I'm teaching at the anthropology department at the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Like in my introduction earlier, and probably one thing that I skip is that I'm from Laos, and I have been doing the research on this area since my doctoral degree, which takes quite long. And since then, I continue working on it. And the area of my focus is on gender, social mobility, quality of teaching, and looking into race ethnicity among Lao people, Thai people, Vietnamese people, and Chinese people in that area, and look into the situation of how national education influence or change or help to educate ethnic minorities to learn in the mainstream system, plus using the national language as medium of instruction. Well, from my experience or based from my research that I've been observing many teachers in Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and some part, particularly in the south of China. And I would say to some certain extent here in Hong Kong, I just can generalizing some strategies in a more pedagogical way. That is, I would say each individuals have their own ways of teaching. And there are many teachers who are very, very good in getting to know students and deliver the content and contents in different languages when they encounter a multilingual, multicultural classroom setting. So that is one tip I have to say. Sometimes they have to see the interaction, the dynamics. So the teachers will be the one to feel that environment in the classrooms. So the main point or the first point for my suggestion in this time in terms of like what strategy or practices, one of the things is trying to individualize, trying to tailor-made these teaching or lesson plan to be flexible enough to engage more students' participation. Well, one of the things is if they have no directions, one of the things is any activities that can do or can deal with a group. Get the trying to look into the group teaching technique. That is very, very fun. And the second thing is from there, from the group, one of the things that they might want to emphasize a lot is group decision making. And I would say this works quite effectively. It goes beyond the cultural barriers. It goes beyond the language barrier. Just focus on the collaboration when we do the group. It's either big group as a whole class sitting in circle or subgroups. So this group, the strategy or this method is very effective. One is the small unit when each group putting together the communication. It forces and enforces students of different backgrounds to face one another and learn to communicate with one another, and they learn from one another, from the peer. And if in a larger group, the teacher would be involved and the teacher would take a role as part of learners in itself. So that to what I mean. This one is just probably add onto what they have been training and here, and for some teacher training courses that have been providing with many institutions around here. But this one would be a personality. This one would be a person which can be developed over time as well. One of the things I have in here is must be curious to learn new things. Another one is, like it or not, we cannot deny the fact that one has to be multilingual if not bilingual. And I believe that teachers here in Hong Kong are all bilingual, if not by Cantonese and English. And beyond that, it's probably Mandarin. But if they have the fourth, the fifth, that is even better. Yeah. And one thing is attached to being curious is being very observant. This is a very good quality, and be a good listener. And the last one is, I have to say, highly encourage as to be a well-traveled person. That will help to encourage and somehow push the individuals to encounter uncomfort zones in a way, to break down some certain stereotypes. So it's very important for a teacher who would be imagining or who would be assigned to be teaching a classroom that beyond, or have a group of students that are not the same or as they expected. Yeah. The first thing that come up onto my head right now is probably coming from being a good listener. So from there, once they develop this skill good enough, I would say from there they will start to see more. Once they listen very carefully, not just hearing, because hearing and listening are not the same. So to me, that would be. Apart from the pedagogy that they already learn and some other courses, there is this one thing that I would encourage students to take as their optional, or if it make as compulsory, it probably might not be that great. But if they are encouraged to take courses that are related to race, class, ethnicity, and gender, that would be a help. That would be a very plus for teachers who would be teaching or would know that that is what they would like to do. Otherwise, it's going to be any courses that are going to be assigned to teach, and that is going to be the next step that they have to deal with the reality. But other than that, for the students who really would like to be trained as the teacher in a classroom with multicultural, multilingual class, that is a must to me. Well, like I said, if for those who already plan to teach classes with a multicultural and multilingual classroom, probably the practicums already been exposed to them. But again, to be in the situation as a professional at the first time, I have just simple tips like a good ice breaking. And again, another one is to do a good homework, studying a student profile before getting into the classroom. And the last one, I would say, learn some few words if they're not familiar with the class or with the student's background, or still have no clue. Just learn to be a student, him or herself. Learn some few words, learn to make mistake in front of students. I would say that is a good start.
What do you mean?
I would assume that the new teacher probably would be given a list of students, and by name, some of them we might be able to identify their backgrounds, or who are not the same as if typical Chinese or Cantonese names in this context. But back into Southeast Asia, the names are quite similar, so it's quite difficult. And there are times that we can make a request to ask for some certain background from the school, which that is part of it, that the teacher should make this type of homework or do this homework, like trying to check further who exactly the students that they're going to go and meet. trying to get to know a little bit, trying to learn on some few tips about students' culture and linguistic backgrounds, so that they are able to feel familiar, feel easier. Of course, they're going to get excited to meet new teachers, but at the same time, if the teacher could associate with them, could get closer to them one tiny bit or see the effort, they would feel even more cheerful. Yeah. Yes, it's very important. It's very important for those who plan, I have to say, for those who plan to be teaching just for the group of ethnic minorities, but for those who just being trained to be teachers and cannot predict which type of classroom or what type of job that they're going to be assigned to or which location. So it may be varies. It just can be just only a school setting of this, I would call bilingual of Cantonese and Mandarin, and probably with Chinese, I mean English. And in some cases where English are going to be more used among non-ethnic Chinese students, that is going to be another. So it's probably is beyond our newly graduate students to predict where they're going to be. But as in general, I have to say the qualities that I mentioned earlier, the curious to learn new things, be a bilingual or multilingual, him or herself is good. Be a good listener, that to help enhance the skill of observation, and also be open-minded and travel more. That would be some foundation for them to really be prepared of what will be next. And one more thing is, I heard the longer, this one from Hong Kong teachers, the longer they are working in the field, the more they start saying that, oh, they don't have time. So it's instead of new graduate students, it turned out to be those who've been teaching for too long, and they turn out to take teaching job as a routine rather than the process of learning new things or learning from the students, and that's probably minimize their lesson plans to be including diversities, including the multilingual or cultural strategies into their lesson plans. So I hope that Hong Kong students or Hong Kong graduates wouldn't get into the routinized way of teaching for too much, and I hope that they still remember their first day on the job. And I hope that after their first day, they're still enjoying teaching the classroom with multilingual, multicultural students.